In the previous Sarga, Bhagavan Vishnu accepted the earnest plea of the Devatas and resolved to descend upon earth as the son of Dasharatha. At that very moment, the sacred Putrakameshti Yajna reached its divine culmination. The radiant Yajna Purusha emerged from the Yajna fire bearing the celestial payasam that would become the means of the Bhagavan's incarnation. The divine plan had now been set into motion. But a great mission cannot be accomplished by one alone. If Bhagavan was to descend as Sri Rama, who would stand beside him? This Sarga answers that question. And today we shall witness the birth of the mighty Vanara heroes. Those extraordinary beings who were brought forth by the Devatas themselves, each endowed with divine strength, each destined for a single purpose, to stand beside Sri Rama. And Valmiki Maharshi narrates, Putratvam tu gate Vishnau Ragyastasya Mahatmanaha Uvacha Devataha Sarvaha Swayambhur Bhagavanidam Satyasandhasya Virasya Sarvesham no Hitaishinaha Vishnoho Sahayan Balinaha Srujatvam Kamarupinaha Maya Vidascha Shuramscha Vayuvega Samanjave Nayagyan Buddhi Sampannam Vishnutulya Parakraman Asahayar Upayagyan Divya Sahannanan Vitan Sarvastra Guna Sampannan Amruta Prashananiva Apsarassu Mukyasu Gandharveenam Tanushu cha Yaksha Pannaga Kanyasu Rukshvighya Dharishu cha Kinnarinam cha Katreshu Vanarinam Tanushu cha Suchadvam Harirupena Putram Stulya Parakrama Purvameva Maya Srushto Jambavan Rukshapungavaha Jrumbhamanasya Sahasa Mama Vaktrad Jayata Te Tathokta Bhagavata Tat Pratishrutya Shasanam Janayamasurevamte Putran Vanarupinaha Rishayascha Mahatmanaha Siddha Vigyadharo Ragaha Charanascha Sutan Viran Sasrajur Vanacharinaha Vanarendram Mahendrabhimindro Valinatmajam Sugrivam Janayamasa Tapanas Tapatam Tvaraha Bruhaspatistva Janayat Taram Nama Mahakapim Sarva Vanara Mukhyanam Buddhimantam Anuttamam Dhanadasya Sutaha Shriman Vanaro Gandhamadanaha Vishwakarma Tvajanayan Nalam Nama Mahakapim Pavakasya Sutaha Shriman Nilogni Sadrusha Prabha Tejasa Yashasa Viryadatya Richata Viryavan Rupa Dravina Sampanna Ashvinau Rupa Sammatau Maindram cha Dvividam chaiva Janayamasa Tuhusvayam Varuno Janayamasa Sushenam Nama Vanaram Sharabham Janayamasa Parjanyastu Mahabalaha Marutasya Aurasaha Sriman Hanuman Nama Vanaraha Vajrasam Hanuno Peto Vainateya Samojave Sarvavanara Mukheshu Buddhiman Balavanapi Te Srushta Bahusahastra Dashagriva Vadhokyataha Aprameyam Balavira Vikrantaha Kamarupinaha Te Gajachala Sankasha Vapushmanto Mahabalaha Rikshavanara Puchhaha Kshiprameva Bhijagire Yasya Devasya Yadrupam Vesho Yascha Parakramaha Ajayata samam tena tasya prithak prithak golanguleshu chotpannaha kinchit unnata vikramaha. Rukshichu chata jata Vanaraha kinnarishu cha Deva maharshi gandharvas takshyaksya yashasvinaha. Nagaha kimpurushāschaiva siddha vikhyadaroragaha bahavo janayamasa hrishtas tatra sahasrashaha. Charanascha sutan biran sasarjurvanacharinaha vanaransu mahakayan sarvan vai vanacharinaha. Apsarassachu mukhyāsu tatha vikhyādharishu cha nagakanyāsu cha tada Gandharvīnām tanūshu ca Kāma rūpa balopeta yatha kāma vicārinaha. Simha shārdūla sadrusha darpena ca balena ca Shila praharanaha sarve parvata yothinaha. Naka damshtra yuthaha sarve sarvastra kovidaha Vichalayeyuhu shailendran Bhedayeyuhu stirantruman. Kshobayeyeshchu vegen samudram saritam patim Tarayeyuhu kshitim padbhyam aplayeyur mahanavan. Nabhastalam visheyuscha gruhniyurapito yadan gruhnuyirapi matangan mattan praprachato vane. Nardamanamscha nadena patayeyur vihangaman idrushanam prasutani Harinam Kamarupinam. Shatam Shatashahastrani Yuthapanam Mahatmanam Te Pradhaneshu Yutheshu Harinam Hariyuthapaha. Babhuvur Yuthapasreshtham Viramscha Janayan Harin Anye Rukshvataha Prasthanu Upatastahu Sahastrashaha. Anye Nana Vidhan Shailan Kananani cha bhejire Suryaputram cha Sugrivam Shakraputram cha Balinam. Bhratara upatastuste Sarve cha Hariyuthapaha Nalam Neelam Hanumantam Anyams cha Hariyuthapam. Te Tarkshabala Sampannaha Sarve Yuddha Visharadaha Vicharantor Adayan Sarvan Simha Vyaghra Mahoragan. Mahabaho Mahabahur Vali Vipula Vikramaha Jugopa Bhujaviryena Ruksha Gopucha Vanaran. Tairiyam Prithvi Shuraihi Saparvata Vanarnava Kirna Vivida Samstharnair Nana Vyanjana Lakshanaihi. Tair Mega Vrunda Chalakuta Sannabhair Mahabalair Vanara Yutapādipaihi Babhuva Bhur Bhima Sharira Rupaihi Samapruta Rama Sahaya Hetoho. Now that Bhagavan Vishnu had resolved to be born as the son of the high-souled King Dasharatha, Swayambhu Brahma, the self-born creator, addressed the assembled Devatas. Bring forth mighty offspring, he said. Partial manifestations of your own divine powers, endowed with immense strength and the ability to assume whatever form they desire. Let them become the companions and allies of Bhagavan Vishnu, that heroic one who is ever true to his word and ever devoted to the welfare of all. Let these sons be masters of Maya, the power to assume wondrous forms and employ extraordinary abilities. Let them be fearless warriors, swift as Vayu himself, wise in statecraft, endowed with keen intelligence, and possessed of prowess comparable to that of Bhagavan Vishnu himself. Let them be invincible before their enemies, skilled in every strategy and device, endowed with divine bodies, and accomplished in the use of every weapon, and radiant in strength, like the immortals who partake of Amrita. Let them be born through the foremost of the Apsaras, through the women of the Gandharvas, the maidens of the Yakshas and the Nagas, through the Rikshis, the women of the Vidyadharas, the female Kinnaras, and the Vanaris. Bring forth these heroic sons in the form of Vanaras, each equal to yourselves in strength and valor. Then Srishtikarta Brahma added, he said, as for Jambavan, the mighty king amongst the Rikshas, he has already been brought forth by me. He sprang forth from my mouth in an instant as I happened to yawn. The Devatas joyfully accepted Brahma's command. The great Rishis, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Nagas, and the Charanas likewise brought forth heroic sons who took birth among the Vanaras and dwelt throughout the forests. One by one, the celestial hosts contributed their own extraordinary offsprings. Indradeva brought forth Vali, who would become the mighty lord of the Vanaras. Suryadeva, the radiant Tapan, brought forth Sugriva. Brihaspati, the Devaguru, brought forth the mighty Vanara Tara, unsurpassed in wisdom amongst all the chiefs of the Vanaras. Kubera, the Dhanada, brought forth the illustrious Gandhamadana. Vishwakarma, the divine architect of the Devatas, brought forth Nala. Agnideva, the Pavaka, brought forth the illustrious Nila, whose radiance shone like fire itself. The Ashwini Kumaras brought forth the heroic twins Mainda and Dvivida. Varunadeva brought forth Sushena. Parjanya, the mighty lord of the rains, brought forth Sharabha. Then Vayu Deva brought forth the illustrious Hanuman. His body was as unyielding as Indra's Vajra, and in swiftness he rivaled Garuda himself. Among all the chiefs of the Vanaras, Hanuman was unrivaled in wisdom and unmatched in strength. And thus were born countless heroic Vanaras, all destined for the destruction of Dashagriva, Ravana. They possessed immeasurable strength and boundless valor. They could assume whatever form they desired. They towered like mighty elephants and lofty mountains. The Rikshas, the Vanaras, and the Gopuchas all came into being almost instantly. Each inherited the form, appearance, and prowess of the celestial being from whom they were born. The Devatas, the great Rishis, the Gandharvas, the descendants of the Garuda, the Yakshas, the guardians of the quarters, the Kimpurushas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Nagas, and the Charanas, all rejoiced in Srishtikarta Brahma's command, bringing forth thousands upon thousands of heroic offspring. These mighty Vanaras possessed immense stature. They could assume any form at will. They wielded extraordinary strength. They moved freely wherever they desired. They were as fearless as lions and as powerful as the tigers. Rocks were their missiles. Mountains themselves became their weapons. Their claws and fangs were their natural weapons. Yet they were masters of every art of warfare. They could shake mighty mountains and split the strongest of trees. With the force of their charge, they could churn the ocean, the lord of the rivers. They could rend the earth beneath their feet and leap across vast oceans. They could ascend into the heavens and seize the very clouds. They could even overpower the mighty elephants in rut as they wandered through the forests. The thunder of their voices alone could send birds tumbling from the sky. Hundreds of thousands of noble Vanaras came into being. They became the mighty chiefs of the innumerable Vanara hosts, leading countless heroic warriors. Some dwelt upon the peaks of the Mount Rikshavan, and yet others spread throughout the mountains and forests of the earth. The great chiefs gathered around Sugriva, the son of Surya Deva, and Vali, the son of Indradeva. Others rallied to the banners of Nala, Nila, Hanuman, and the other mighty leaders of the Vanaras. Endowed with the strength of Takshya, Garuda himself, they became masters of the art of war. As they ranged through the forests, they subdued lions, tigers, and the mighty serpents that crossed their path. Mighty in strength, broad-shouldered, and possessed of extraordinary prowess, Vali protected the Rikshas, the Gopuchas, and the Vanaras by the strength of his own arms. And thus the entire earth, with its mountains, forests, and the oceans, became filled with these heroic Vanaras, diverse in form and bearing, each marked by his own distinctive qualities. The earth has been prepared for these mighty leaders of the Vanara hosts, immense in strength and resembling towering mountain peaks, wrapped in masses of storm clouds, had all been brought forth for one purpose alone: to stand beside Sri Rama. Among the countless Vanaras whom Bhagavan Brahma commanded the Devatas to bring forth, there is one whose name would one day shine above them all. Hanuman, the embodiment of immeasurable strength, perfect humility, and unwavering devotion. But who was this extraordinary being? The Puranas preserve a beautiful tradition concerning Hanuman's divine birth. Long before Hanuman came into this world, there lived an Apsara, a celestial maiden named Anjana. She was an Apsara of extraordinary beauty, who through the force of a curse descended from the heavenly realms and took birth upon the earth. And though she now dwelt among the Vanaras, her heart never forgot the divine. Together with her husband, the noble Vanara chief Kesari, Anjana undertook a severe tapasya. Day after day, year after year, her life itself became an offering. Her heart held but one prayer: to be blessed with a son. Not an ordinary son, but one who would dedicate his entire life to Dharma. The Puranic traditions tell us that Bhagavan Shiva was deeply pleased by her unwavering devotion. Moved by her tapasya, he resolved that a portion of his own divine power would descend into the world. And yet, every divine birth unfolds through a sacred instrument. For this, Bhagavan chose Vayu, the all-pervading wind, invisible yet touching every living being, gentle enough to cool a flower, yet powerful enough to move the mountains. And thus Vayu became the divine instrument through whom Bhagavan Shiva's blessing reached Anjana. And then the long years of tapasya bore fruit. Anjana gave birth to a radiant son. His complexion shone with a brilliant golden lustre. His body already possessed extraordinary strength. Yet what shone brightest was neither his strength nor his speed, but rather the serenity upon his face. Even as an infant, he seemed untouched by fear, untouched by pride, untouched by anger. Only peace, only innocence, only limitless potential. But destiny had already begun to reveal itself. One morning, the young child awoke and gazed towards the eastern horizon. And there, rising through the crimson dawn, was the radiant orb of the sun. To the innocent child, it appeared to be nothing more than a ripe fruit hanging in the heavens. And without the slightest hesitation, he leapt higher and higher and higher still. The very sky became his playground. The Devatas looked on in astonishment. The child continued his impossible ascent. Vayu himself followed close behind, shielding his beloved son from the blazing radiance of the Surya Deva. And yet at that very moment, Rahu approached to seize the sun during the anointed eclipse. But before he could fulfill his task, Hanuman, the playful child, rushed towards him, mistaking him too for another fruit. And terrified, Rahu fled straight to Indradeva, the king of the Devatas. "There is another Rahu," he cried. "He seeks to swallow the sun before me." Indradeva mounted the mighty Airavata and hastened towards the heavens. And there he beheld not a demon, but a child. Yet when the child turned eagerly towards Airavata himself, thinking that the great white elephant is yet another fruit. And Indradeva released the Vajra, his thunderbolt. It struck the child upon the jaw. The little one fell from the heavens, landing upon the mountains below. And from that day onward, the child became known as Hanuman, the one with the broken jaw. When Vayu beheld his beloved son lying motionless, his grief knew no bounds. In sorrow, he withdrew himself from the worlds. And at once, every living creature found it difficult to breathe. The winds had ceased. The forests fell silent. Life itself seemed to stand still. Alarm spread throughout the three worlds, and the Devatas hastened to the Srishtikarta Brahma. And together they approached Vayu, who still held the unconscious child close to his heart. Srishtikarta Brahma then gently touched Hanuman. Immediately life returned. Joy returned. The winds began to flow once more. Looking upon the child, the Devatas recognized that this was no ordinary birth, and one after another they stepped forward, bestowing magnificent boons upon him. Brahma declared that his Brahmastra cannot bind him. Indra declared that the Vajra would never again harm him. Agni blessed him with immunity from fire, Varuna from the waters, Yama from untimely death, and Vayu, his divine father, bestowed upon him incomparable speed. And thus Hanuman grew, endowed with immeasurable strength, boundless wisdom, and extraordinary courage. Yet such immense power in the hands of a child could not remain unnoticed. Playful by nature, the young Hanuman delighted in wandering through the forests and innocently disturbing the tapasyas of the great rishis. Not out of malice, never out of arrogance, only with the carefree innocence of childhood. The great rishis understood that this was no ordinary child. They knew that within him rested a power capable of shaking the worlds. But they also knew that such immeasurable strength must first be tempered by humility. And so, out of compassion rather than anger, they bestowed upon him a remarkable blessing that appeared outwardly to be a curse. They declared, "May this child forget the immeasurable powers that dwell within him, until the day arrives when another reminds him of who he truly is." And so it was. As the years passed, Hanuman grew into the noblest amongst the Vanaras, strong beyond measure, wise beyond compare, yet completely unaware of the limitless strength that rested quietly within him. He never sought greatness. He never sought glory. He never sought recognition. Instead, he became the very embodiment of humility. Strength hidden beneath gentleness, power hidden beneath service, knowledge hidden beneath silence. And years later, when the Vanara Army stood upon the shores of the great ocean, searching for a way to reach Lanka, Even Hanuman himself believed that the impossible lay before him. And it was then that another ancient hero stepped forward, one who had witnessed the passing of ages, one whose wisdom had been forged across countless yugas. The venerable Jambavan, looking upon the son of Vayu, he smiled and gently reminded him, not of what he must become, but rather of what he has always been. And with those words, the forgotten memory awakened. The sleeping lion arose. The immeasurable strength bestowed upon him by the Devatas returned to his own awareness. And perhaps that is why Hanuman remains one of the most beloved figures in all of Sanatana Dharma. For he reminds us that the greatest power is not found in those who constantly display it, but rather it is found in those who quietly dedicate it to the service of Dharma. That is Hanuman. Apart from Hanuman, among all the mighty beings whom Srishtikarta Brahma brought forth to assist Bhagavan Sri Rama, another one stands apart, but not because of unmatched strength, nor because of the dazzling feats in battle, but because of wisdom, ancient wisdom. This is the story of Jambavan. The Valmiki Ramayana tells us that when Srishtikarta Brahma commanded the Devatas to bring forth mighty allies for Sri Rama, he declared that one such being has already been created, Jambavan, the ancient Riksharaja, the king of the bears. The Puranic traditions preserve a beautiful account of his origin. At the dawn of creation, as Srishtikarta Brahma once yawned, from that divine yawn emerged Jambavan, not born through an ordinary womb, but manifest directly from the Creator himself. He was breathed into existence by the Creator himself. Thus began one of the longest lives recorded in the sacred traditions. Jambavan would witness the passing of the yugas, the rise and fall of kings, and the descent of Bhagavan in multiple avatars. If Hanuman embodies boundless devotion, Jambavan embodies timeless wisdom. Long before the birth of Sri Rama, Bhagavan descended as Vamana, the divine Brahmana dwarf, to humble the mighty king Bali. When Vamana expanded into the cosmic form of Trivikrama, his body filled the entire universe. With one stride, he measured all of earth. With another, the heavens themselves. The traditions tell us that Jambavan was overcome with devotion. How does one circumambulate the Bhagavan when the Bhagavan himself has become the universe? With astonishing speed, Jambavan raced around the Bhagavan's immeasurable form again and again before his second stride had fully descended. It was not a display of power, it was rather an expression of bhakti. For Jambavan, worship always came before glory. And many ages later, when the Bhagavan descended as Sri Rama, Jambavan once again stood at his side. He fought in the great war against Ravana. Yet his greatest contribution was not merely his strength, but rather his judgment. When the search for Sita reached the shores of the southern ocean, it was Jambavan who reminded Hanuman of the immeasurable powers that had long lain forgotten within him. It was his words that awakened Hanuman's confidence and inspired the mighty leap across the ocean to Lanka. And later, during the great battle, when Lakshmana lay unconscious and the Vanara army had been struck down, the wounded Jambavan asked only one question. He said, "Is Hanuman alive?" For he knew that as long as Hanuman yet breathed, hope remained. It was Jambavan who instructed Hanuman to journey to the Himalayas and bring back the Sanjeevani, the life-restoring herbs. Unable to distinguish the sacred herbs, Hanuman carried the entire mountain itself. Such was the wisdom of Jambavan, that he always knew not merely what should be done, but who alone was capable of doing it. And yet, Jambavan's story did not end with Sri Rama. The tradition tells us that deep within his heart there remained a unique longing. Throughout the Ramayana, he had served Bhagavan with perfect humility, but he also wished to experience the limitless strength of the very one whom he adored. Such a wish could not be fulfilled while serving Sri Rama. Time moved on. As the world changed and the Treta Yuga faded into history, Jambavan waited in the silence of his cave, knowing his story with the divine was not yet finished. The Treta Yuga had passed. The Dvapara Yuga had dawned. The Bhagavan once again descended, this time as Sri Krishna. When the Syamantaka jewel came into Jambavan's possession, Sri Krishna entered his mountain cave. Neither recognized the other. And there the two fought an extraordinary duel. For days upon days, they battled with inconceivable strength. Only at the end, when exhaustion overcame him, did Jambavan perceive the truth, that the one standing before him was none other than his beloved Sri Rama, now manifest as Sri Krishna. Overwhelmed with devotion, he fell at the Bhagavan's feet. He offered the Syamantaka jewel and with great joy gave his daughter Jambavati in marriage to Sri Krishna. And thus, across the three great avatars, Vamana Avatara, Sri Rama Avatara, and Sri Krishna Avatara, Jambavan remained unchanged. Not the strongest, not the swiftest, but perhaps the wisest servant of the Bhagavan, whose devotion endured across the yugas themselves.